Welcome everybody to Bitcoin Live. Today with me in the show is my co-host Sid. Welcome to the show, Sid.
Good morning. Happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter. Yeah, for me it's evening.
It's
My
morning here and it's like Easter morning, so
oh
it's
yeah. Well,
beautiful.
you should be
Also,
celebrating with your family.
well, I have
Are you
no family. I am without family, so
okay?
so
But you do
internet is
celebrate
my family.
Easter.
Hmm?
You do celebrate Easter.
I do celebrate everything related to Jesus Christ.
Uh,
Christmas, Easter, everything. It doesn't mean that I believe everything, but I love Jesus Christ. I don't, you see, like, I don't follow the doctrine, but Jesus is my king. That's that you can say.
I want to apologize upfront to everybody. My setup is a little bit glitchy. I think it might be me overloading my computer, or I just need a new computer. One of the two. But bear with me. We got a cool show. We're gonna talk about Michael Harerra. We should have done that like a month ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about basically UFOs. So this will be mostly UFOs and a little bit pyramids at the end, uh, because there's an update on
Even
that.
though our name is Pyramid Part 2, but it's not actually Pyramid Part 2.
Oh,
The name of the
good that you
podcast.
say that. Yeah. Sometimes it does that when you set it up.
Yeah.
It sticks with the old name. Okay, wait. I'm gonna just play the first clip, and then I'll fix the name while I'm doing that. So this is the clip why we are here.
Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world. Our cars do not fly. Advances have not stopped, but something has gone wrong. Stagnation was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow and improve productivity. Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be.
Yeah, so that was basically a representative of the government. I think he was the chief technology expert, or government official, who gave a speech,
Yeah.
and he admitted that the U.S. government might have technology that allows for.
Okay, so I will say that if you just take this clip and then you can make an argument that he's just talking about like how fast we are improving, he's not talking about manipulation. But if you look at the big picture with what we do, we look what other people are saying. So Trump recently said, uh, we have a power to predict future and something, something around that time, like not
I
just
got that
predict, but
here.
it's like you can see the future. And then on Redacted they had like a good explanation. And then we will make, when we look at Ashton Forbes, his account, that he is talking about the same thing, that us like US Defense Department have this technology to teleport and manipulate time and space. And uh, I would like to say that back in the day there was a conspiracy of Philadelphia experiment, where there was a US Navy ship which was teleported. It was like debunked as a conspiracy, because there was no actual proof of it. So a lot of people just say that's just like a myth and something. But the believers of that conspiracy are saying that from like very long time, that they had this technology, they were teleporting stuff. manipulating time and space. So if anybody want to see, go and look up Philadelphia Philadelphia experiment. But let's go play this one.
Yep.
The White House has just admitted on the record that we possess the technology to manipulate time and space. In other words, time travel, teleportation technology. Yes, the ability to transport large military craft from point A to point B. The White House has just
Yeah, so that was a very short clip. I think
Yeah.
it basically more or less said the same thing as
It's
we
just an
said.
introduction because I think everybody should go and listen to their whole podcast.
Yeah.
Like
But this
the
is
whole show.
we also have this one. This is actually Ashton Forbes who highlighted from the White House itself. So this is from the quote of the chief technology expert or representative of the White House. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow, and improve productivity. Yeah, so I agree with you. You could make the case or say that he was speaking symbolically or like an analogy or like a metaphor, using a metaphor to, talk about improvement, that we have been stagnating and stuck with airplanes, and that we need to move forward into a new age. But
Yeah.
I think he's being pretty explicit here.
No, in
And
this one, no, I'm not talking about so this is what I'm saying. If you just look at that his speech, in that one, you can take the word and make an argument. But when you combine everything up, including
yeah,
this,
yeah,
this is like a World War II time, right? Philadelphia experiment is really old, or
yep.
during the Cold War. I don't remember exactly. But when you combine all the data, then you can say that I know what they are saying. But if you just take one thing and then make an argument, that's up to you. And you can still close your eyes. But a lot of people, including Ashton Forbes, who is really intelligent, when you listen to him, you know that he knows what he's talking about. And so all of the data is there suggesting that they have this technology and they might end up doing something stupid, which brings me up to Mandela effect. There is a possibility that they are experimenting and changing the past, and in the ripple effect we are seeing Mandela effect.
Well, they're definitely experimenting. We can be sure about that. But
Yeah,
let's
no,
play this
yeah,
one
but that could
because
explain Mandela effect, that somebody is changing something in the past.
true. Okay, so this is Trump himself.
And we're very powerful. This country's very powerful. Let me tell you, it's far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, not even close. So nobody's going to do that, but I think that if that's what you're referring to, maybe it's.
So he's saying that they have weaponry that that the adversaries can basically only dream of, and we actually have more.
Yeah, I just want to make one point. You know, the idea is not something is just for you. If you can create something, someone else can have the same idea at the same time, because ideas exist in this plane and people just tap into that plane and get the idea. So if they are thinking that they have this power, then I would like to remind them of nuclear and all nuclear technology. Other countries, including Russia, independently created. US did not. There is some allegation that they steal, but there is no proof to that. Other countries, and there are like 9 powers, and they have created nuclear technology independently. So if you think you
No,
have created some technology and no one else have that, I think you're wrong. Other people can do that, and this is really bad.
absolutely. It's the same with Newton and Leibniz, and they discovered the calculus each on their own around the same time, independent of each other. So I absolutely in agreement with what you say, and there's also evidence that China and Russia and perhaps Israel and other powers have sort of developed similar technologies or are on the same page as the
Yeah.
US. But of course, the US has like infinite resources at their disposal, and perhaps they also, because of the World War II and how that developed, and them having the upper hand during that period, that they might have gotten their hands on more material faster than other powers, even though you could also say that perhaps, or very likely, the Nazi Germany was way ahead of all
Yeah,
of these
they got
powers.
destroyed. Otherwise, they have done it
Yeah,
easily. And they were doing independently. There was no information sharing. So this idea is so bad. Also, even if, let's just say, even if nobody else have that technology and you try to manipulate time and space, you don't know how much effect you gonna face, because like it, you just think it's gonna affect others, but no, when you manipulate time and space, you change everything. It's gonna affect you. So I don't know, I don't even know what technology we are talking about here, because we don't have any explanation other than the conspiracy behind their words. But if they are
yeah,
manipulating time and space, it's foolish to say it's only going to affect the enemies. No, it's going to affect everyone. It depends how
yeah,
far in the future you are going, far
yeah.
back.
And of course, like you said, like on our part, it's pure speculation about these technologies, because we only have like words and phrases, and we don't know exactly what it does. But we have been showing a lot of indirect and anecdotal evidence that it might be something like that, also because of the sort of technologies that we're talking about. But I want to play this clip because this is also basically the White House or the US government. This is Lieutenant Steve Kwast, or Kwast, I think it's Dutch, Kwast, who gave a speech in 2019, and it's titled "The Urgent Need for the US Space Force." And some very interesting clips from this one.
Energy, the seed corn of all development, all growth, all survival, energy. So energy, transportation, information, and manufacturing, these are the things that change humanity, that will change world power, and they are descending upon us in ways that are very unique. The technology is on the engineering benches today, but most Americans and most in Congress have not had time to really look deeply at what's going on here. But I've had the benefit of 33 years of studying and becoming friends with these engineers and these scientists. This technology can be built today with technology that is not developmental, to deliver any human being from any place on planet Earth to any other place in less than an hour, to deliver Wi-Fi from space where you never need a cell tower to connect, to deliver energy from space where you never have to plug your phone in and it trickle charges and you can use that energy over time. It can be applied to cars, to houses.
So that was a very interesting speech. I haven't heard the full one yet, but I did get some clips. I got also this one. So this is from 2019, of course, this clip. And of course, via Ashton Forbes. This one is from the same speech.
The power of space can do what Reagan was doing, and the physics just didn't quite close. Brilliant Pebbles was the program to put a space-based layer that could see and kill any missile launched the moment we knew it was launched in a direction that was nefarious to American values. And it could be shot down before it even left the geographic boundaries of whichever place it was launched. You can build that off the shelf today, and we have not, and China is.
So these clips are very interesting. I just only found them out this week.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it only means that this guy didn't know about it. It doesn't mean that they have not built it, because they try to keep everything secret. Also, the space lasers are like, this conspiracy is out from a long time, and that could be used as a defensive technology.
True. Yeah, this DEW, as it's called,
Direct energy
defense
weapon.
energy weapon systems. And well, anyway, but we're so it's interesting, right? So these technologies, as we've been saying for a long time, and we're big fans of Ashton Forbes. So he was on to this long time ago with MH370 when he was following this sort of lost plane, Malaysian plane, And many people tried to debunk his work. They all failed miserably. And now more and more evidence is pointing to the fact that it's probably real. I actually also have a clip of that one. I think that might be useful to play. Wait, I think I got it over here. So this is a very short clip.
Also,
But
before we play, while you're looking for it, just want to remind everyone that last week or a week earlier, the, we cloned wolves. We
oh
didn't
yeah, the
clone.
dire wolf.
Yeah, we didn't clone it. We just bring a wolf from extinction. So that is still very crazy. That's a crazy technology.
Yeah, I actually I wrote it up too. It's good that you remind me because I forgot it already. But yeah,
Yeah,
we
we have to
we
talk about
managed to
dire wolves.
revive a dire wolf. I think the last one was 10,000 or 12,000 years ago, something
Yes.
along the time of the mammoths and the saber-toothed tigers. You had dire wolves, which were like gigantic wolves, and
Yeah.
reproduce one.
And they're talking
So
about bringing back mammoth. That'll be insane because, to be honest, yeah, it's cool that we have a wolf because there are so many wolves. That doesn't interest me. But if you bring mammoth back, that will be something I want to go and see because
yeah, well,
mammoth is
a
like,
dire wolf, I would also love to see that one.
yeah,
But
I'm not
yeah,
saying that. No, no, I'm not saying that it's not cool. I'm saying it's amazing. But wolves are there. Mammoths have literally extinct. And there is
yeah,
nothing like mammoth. Like elephant is, but elephant is a whole different category.
true.
Wolves look the same. Mammoth is like a whole thing. I want to see a mammoth.
But it
Also,
shows you like
I'm a
what
big
they
fan
can
of
do.
Ice Age too, so I've seen mammoth there. The movie Ice Age.
Yeah. Great movies. But
Yeah,
it shows you what they can do with CRISPR right now,
yeah,
and it's pretty creepy. But this one is sort of about MH370. So in the background, you see the video looping of the plane with the three balls around it, and then you see the plane disappear. And then many people sort of claim that this video was inauthentic, that it was fake, and they try to debunk it on every possible way that
Oh,
they could.
like Mick West.
Like Mick West, yeah. But it turns out that sort of the dynamics and what you're seeing there is probably real, and this is an authentic video, right? They try to they tried everything they could, but they this is like a technology where they probably are just transporting or transporting a plane from one place to another
Yeah.
using this very exotic kind of 0 point energy. And why I chose this one is because this guy gives a really nice summary because the MH370 also had on board these semiconductor scientists, right? So on the plane that disappeared are
Yeah.
the semiconductor scientists who are actually who were researching this technology that you can have conductivity at room temperature and other kind of sort of strange phenomena, and they
Yeah.
were on their way to China, and apparently the U.S. in a show of force, plus of course that they didn't want that to happen, transported or eliminated those scientists altogether. So that
Or
also,
something more nefarious. We don't know. Maybe there was
yeah.
no, because I actually heard that there was nobody on board. That was just a test. That's also I
No, there
heard.
were definitely people on board. No, that's there were definitely people on board. No, and I think I think I got so many clips and videos here. I don't even know where to go next. But maybe we should move to Michael Herrera first.
Yeah, let's
Shall
go
we
to
do that?
Michael Harerra. Yeah.
Yeah. So Michael Harerra was a U.S. Army. He's a U.S. Army veteran, and he's still, I think, in the army, if I'm not mistaken. And he
I,
was
I
doing
think
a humanitarian. Huh?
he's not anymore, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's still. Yeah, probably not because he's gone on the record. So
Yeah.
He's probably not anymore. But anyway, so now he's a whistleblower like David Grush. But he told about his situation. They had sort of a situation in Indonesia and in the Philippines. There was sort of this flooding and a hurricane and a lot of destruction. And he was with this humanitarian mission. And then they flew to Indonesia to help the people there. And then when his platoon arrived, they discovered what was a gigantic octagonal shaped UAP of about 300 feet in size. And
But
we're going to play
UFO
some.
is not even the crazier part. The craziest part of that is like there are like US soldiers who had no insignia, but they were working alongside with this UFO. That is the crazier part.
So I'm going to play some little parts of it.
We decided to get in a tactical column and approach this, right? And we got down the slope, and it's just like a clearing and just has this big opening. It's almost a little bit more than the football field because this craft took up majority of that.
So let's just back up for a
Yeah.
minute. Let's describe a setting, because at first you said there were helos doing racetracks
Yes.
around. Is this the same opening that you described earlier, that you were watching helos drop
No,
supplies?
no.
Okay.
So where this was happening was southwest, at least where the helo insertion points were with the LZs that they were setting up, and they were flying very low in consideration, right? So, and the reason why I know this is because I asked the pilots after this, because I was on the officers' mess and I knew their call signs, and I approached them and I asked them very respectfully if they noticed anything strange. None of them said anything.
Okay.
So I was trying to see if they could get a view of a topside, because this is just something that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So also their call signs all stuck out too, you know, because pilots like to do crazy stuff with their call signs, so it was very easy to track them down. But having this happen on the north part of the slope and it goes down, and obviously, you know, the way it was transitioning colors, which was kind of the way that it appealed, because it was transitioning for a light matte black, or no, sorry, a light matte gray to a dark matte black, and just kind of ranging in between, right?
Let's rewind a little bit before we get into the description.
Okay.
How far? So, what was the activity with all the other helicopters? Were they active at the time that you saw the?
Honestly,
UAP?
When we started going down there, no.
Okay.
And I don't know, because obviously we're occupied with this.
How far do you think it was?
So from the LZ where we were at was 300 meters roughly, okay, plus the slope that was concealing plus vegetation. Down the slope, it was like 400 meters maybe. So we got close. We trucked down quite a bit.
Okay.
About 150 meters outside, 150, 200, right? Halfway. And
So maybe about a click away.
possibly, yeah.
At the
The
farthest.
craft itself might have been a click up.
Okay.
Yeah. And as like I said, the reason why I know how big this thing was, because
Did you see it as you crested the
Yes.
the hill?
yes, I did, and that's where I took videos and pictures of this thing. That's how I was able to see it, because, you know, taking pictures of the chaos going behind and everything, you see the rubble, burning buildings, flooding, and all that kind of stuff, and then you turn around and I'm like,
So you crest this hill.
yep,
You look down into the valley.
yep.
And there's a clearing.
There's a clearing.
with a UAP
Yes.
just sitting there.
Sitting there
hovering.
rotating clockwise, yep. And that's in transition, this color spectrum I was telling you too. And that's why it's something that stuck out. It's not a building, you know. It's not something that you're used to seeing. Maybe topside it could have looked like a building or something that, you know, I don't know. I don't have that perspective. I wasn't a pilot or anything, but I can tell you from our point of view, it's something that it looked very unnatural and abnormal. And that's
So I got some more. So this is sort of to set the mood and the settings. This entire interview is worth watching.
It's
And of
amazing,
course,
yeah.
Michael Harerra was also closely connected to Stephen Greer. And when Stephen Greer sort of earlier this year in January was sort of talking about, you know, dropping a bombshell, I think he was
He brought
talking about
three
the story.
whistleblowers. One of them was Michael Harerra, but the other
Yeah.
two are really
Who were the other two?
well. So if you go to Sean Ryan podcast, this one, so one
Yeah.
before that and one after that, all three. I don't remember those guys' name, but all three of them, like, because this was released a year ago or something, so I don't remember exactly their names. But all three of them were introduced by Stephen Greer, and Sean Ryan did exclusive interviews of all three people.
Okay, but are these from a year ago? Wait, I'm gonna
Yeah,
check.
yeah, it was more than a year ago.
Give me a moment.
If you could just go open that.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know what kind of bombshell Stephen
So
Greer had in mind, but anyway, so Jake Barber also mentioned Michael Herrera
yeah,
because he was sort of involved also with Greer. As basically, Jake Barber was at first acting a little bit as a gatekeeper, trying to get hold of some material that they were looking for, and they knew that a lot of that material would end up in Stephen Greer's hands. So he was sort of gatekeeping at first, but then he sort of got to know Michael Herrera, who was also part of the entourage of Greer, and then they became friends. And Jake Barber actually vouches for this story from Herrera because in the testimony from Jake Barber, which has also been verified by countless other people, he also recognizes the octagonal shape UAP that Herrera is describing here. So only the size is different, right? Because this one is 300 feet, and the one that Jake Barber talks about is much sort of more,
action.
realistically shaped.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is crazy because also there is a possibility because like he was in distress, Michael Herrera, at that time,
Mhm.
because he wasn't just seeing a UFO, he was also seeing, no, he wasn't seeing, but he was on the other end of the gun points of those rogue military guys because he didn't know who they were and they were threatening him to kill. At the same time, he was seeing a UFO. So there is a possibility that he created this perception of something which was smaller, but he did see something, and we do that all the time sometimes. For example, there are mountains next to my home, right? So sometimes they look big depending on my mood, sometimes they look small, also depends on the lens. Like when I say lens, I mean air quality. So air quality make things look bigger and smaller. Like if you have dew in the air,
Yeah.
dew, it looks smaller or bigger
Yeah,
depending.
okay, but he got pretty close, like almost underneath it, and he's a trained observer as a military,
Yeah, but
veteran.
but
So
he
you
was
can
also
sort of,
at the but he was also at the gunpoint, right? There were people trying to threaten him, so everything was looking crazy. So it wasn't he wasn't just noticing that UFO. He was all, but I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just saying there is a possibility that he saw something else, and which was a UFO, which was not 300 feet, but at this time, in the circumstances, he thought it was much bigger than it was.
well, let's play a little bit more.
I mean, and considering this was in 2009 compared to now, I mean, of course, they had this thing that they were using to load up stuff. It's very advanced physics, something hovering off the ground, not making any sound, but an audible hum, like a guitar amp or something that's like a transformer.
So it wasn't like, it didn't sound like a jet.
No.
It didn't sound like a helicopter.
Hell no.
There was no engine noise.
Nope.
Just a hum.
Just an audible hum. It's very creepy to see because it's not normal.
Was it like a bassy hum?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Like a guitar. Like if you were to unplug it, I mean, it wasn't the same pitch, but it was like the same kind of sound, same kind of noise that it emitted. And so as they're searching us, we're watching this thing happen. And that's when we started seeing trucks come from our left and go onto this platform. And they were up armored 350s. I know exactly what 350s are. They were kind of beefier trucks. They were matte black. When they were coming at us, and they go left. And I was glancing between what was going on in front of us with these guys, and then all of a sudden glancing over to what was going on behind them. And that's when I started seeing the key details of this thing. Like it had like a scale pattern on it, kind of like an octagonal, because the craft itself was like an octagonal shape where you could see points. Had a pyramid structure on top that was black, and you can see the shadowing of it as it rotated. But it was rotating very slow. And then it had like these vents on every single corner on the middle part of these panels anyway. There was like a Vanta black. It was like a dark black that would like absorb light. Very weird.
What do you mean by that? A dark black that would absorb light?
So, if you ever familiar with the BMW, they painted Vanta black. It was like a very super dark black. It's not like a reflective material at all.
The matte black?
Yeah, but very, 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 even darker than matte black.
Okay.
Like you can shine a light at it and it won't even illuminate.
Like the Batmobile?
Kind of. Something like that. But even, it was like very dark. The only way I can describe it was like that Vanta black.
Okay.
And So,
So
as
when you mean absorb light, you're saying if I shine a laser on it, you might not even see the laser, or it
correct,
would be very dull.
correct,
Okay.
something like that. So we're watching these vehicles, right? These trucks. Now, the thing I would say on the front of them, because Humvees, the military has, they have the IR lights on the front near the headlights that you can drive at nighttime with your knots. So they had the same thing because they had the same kind of slits that had the IR lights. But they had weapon cases in the back of each truck bed. And, you could store like a couple hundred weapons, maybe 100 weapons, maybe a platoon, a company size element. And it was the same Pelican cases that we would use to store stuff when they were transloading, so very big cases on 2 of them in each truck bed. And then they had a shipping container thing. I mean, it looked like a shipping container, but smaller and half the size. And the thing that was different about this is it had a cylinder on the front of it that was towards the truck. It was like parallel to the ground, just a cylinder right on the top of this thing. And for years I thought, okay, like, there's got to be Ashton's supplier of like a vacuum sealing thing that you would, because obviously I'm thinking it's drugs. I was like, okay, so this is a very advanced way to do that. Just years of thinking of this. And come to find out, when I gave my speech in D.C. on that Saturday for the Disclosure Project with Dr. Greer, he's got a lot of people coming out of the woodwork, by the way. And this gentleman, I'm not going to give any detail. I know a little bit about him, but he works in some of these projects that are some very controversial facilities. He's aware of what was going on. After I gave my presentation of this, he confirmed, he says, no, he's like, I don't want to leave Michael hanging out there, but I was not expecting to come and talk to you about this. And he went explaining what the operations do, why they do it, and what they were using them for. And he says, there's not drugs that they're putting in these shipping containers. He says it's humans.
Human trafficking.
Okay, let's stop it there.
Yeah.
By the way, I just noticed Paul saying that the stream stopped. I think it's still running on X.
It's running on my thing, so
yeah. So maybe it's on YouTube, but I think it's also still running on YouTube. I think. Anyway, but so yeah, this is sort of the controversial part of Michael Harerra's claim, is that that he was saying like that they're trafficking.
this is the most
humans.
juicy part.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just checked YouTube. We're still running there, so I'm not sure. Maybe you got kicked out, Paul. And that's where Jake takes issue with Hererra, because he thinks that they might have taken people. So he's not claiming or denying that they might have taken people, but the way Jake Barber tells the story is that it's not human trafficking per se, but that they were shopping for Psi people. So sort of, because it's like a disaster area, right? So these people might have lost their homes and their situation because of the flooding and all the disasters happening around the time. So apparently, perhaps these missions go to these disaster areas, and then they tell these people like, hey, do you want a job? Like a high-paying job with the U.S. military, or whatever kind of
Or
outfit it is.
aliens, because like before US there are evidence. Well, I won't say that that's like a complete proof, but let's just say some evidence of other civilization getting disappeared, or people from the civilization, for example Mayan, in over one night they just disappeared. Also, there is a possibility that these guys came to Indonesia after the disaster and they took some people to do something. Also, there is a possibility that they were new recruits, because there is like a big conspiracy which is like in the dark corners of the internet, that there is like a human and alien military coalition where they take people, they recruit people, they take it to the other planet and they do their biddings or whatever, for whatever. But that's like a very weak conspiracy, nobody believes that. Somebody do believe that, but they are not like very, there is no hard evidence for that. So it could be one of those things, not sure about it.
But I don't want to linger on this point too much because what I really want to do in this episode is sort of make a case for the reality of UAPs, because I can sort of imagine that when somebody hears Herrera's story, they think he's bad shit crazy and he's just making shit up. And the sort of the human trafficking thing is something to keep in your mind, that like you say, like for whatever reason, he clearly saw them taking people on board in trucks, and even in containers with these oxygen tanks attached to them. And it's not clear if these people were there voluntarily or involuntarily. We don't know. And he doesn't know either, and Jake probably also doesn't know. So that's sort of pure speculation. But what I want to focus on is sort of the reality of UAPs. So I want to go to the next one, where he sort of describes how the flight characteristics of this UAP, because it actually also took off at the end of the ordeal. So and this is his story of the flight characteristics.
Faster than anything you've seen before? Was it a normal speed?
No, it was faster. It was the fastest thing I've ever seen. It was, I would say, probably 4,000 or 5,000 miles an hour. I mean, it was instantaneous. It was just like it left a blur.
Okay.
Like a jet screaming by going as fast as it possibly could, you can still make the shape of it and still lock your eyes onto it as it's going. There's no way in hell you can lock your eyes onto this thing as it's moving. That's how fast it was.
Okay.
And eyesight, something moving, your eyes are naturally going to pick up that motion. And this didn't do that. I mean, it was just it just left a very fast blur. And like I said, I've never seen anything like that. The way that it moved, the way that it didn't make any sound, completely, didn't change pitch of the hum or anything like that.
Did it go at an upward angle? Was it a straight line?
It just looked like a straight line from what I couldn't see. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it went up in the sky or anything. It was just like went over the trees and was gone.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, knowing aircraft and things like that, it just wasn't something normal. Something completely faster, something that doesn't make any sound. I mean, radar signature, I have no idea. But there's theories that maybe the design of it could not reflect radar signals. I mean, I don't know how that go. I'm not, I don't work in that project or anything like that, but it's just something that's very odd to see. Very, very alarming.
Did the light stay on as it took off?
Yeah. But you couldn't even see the blurs of lights even. It was just this black blur that just left.
So that's bizarre, right? Also that they left the lights on.
Yeah.
Because you would think like maybe they want a cloak or whatever, but
No, but in the end, they had lights. They had lights when they were hovering, but when he said that when it went away, you couldn't even see lights. So I think they turned it off.
No, he said they left it on.
No.
He clearly said he left it.
No,
They left
I
it
think
on.
he said it was a black blur. So when they start moving, they were left on, but then when it moved, it was so fast that you couldn't even see the lights.
Yeah, it was too fast. Yeah, that's
so maybe
correct,
I'm just saying, like, when it was hovering, there was lights on, but the moment it start moving, it turned off and was just a black blur.
So
you
just to
can't
give people an idea of how big this ship was, I'm gonna share this with you. This is kind of fun. So it is 300 feet. So 1 second.
He also
Yeah,
have the replica of it. He made like a model of it. Yeah.
So this is the size of the object.
Yeah.
But it can get even crazier because I'm not sure if people are aware of the Baltic Sea anomaly, which is probably also a UAP, which is at the bottom of the sea, the Baltic Sea, which this researcher, he's trying to find some money to help him recover that object. And maybe Avi Loeb is going to help him. I hope he does. He has done a lot of research. There's a lot of documentation, and there is clearly an object, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a UAP. But this clip is actually about a UAP he was also a UAP witness when he was young, and he's now telling that story about what he saw when he was young. And it closely mirrors the story of Hererra.
You see it like this, and then it's turning up like this. And
So it
when
went
that
from-
happened,
So it was originally looking like a cigar shape, which
Yeah.
is essentially a disc looking from the side.
exactly.
But as it turned, you became aware of its particular shape. What shape
Yes.
did you see as it turned?
Round. It's a round object. And
And
it was
then what happened?
and then I saw it just for perhaps 3-4 seconds. And then
Okay, wait. This guy his English is not so good, so I'm gonna skip ahead with this clip because what happened next is very interesting. So here we go.
exactly.
How big was the object?
Wow. That was something I spent the day after, or the same day after I have talked to my kids about it. We're going to the spot and try to figure out how big it was. It can be 600, 700 meters in diameter. It was not a small little thing.
And was there any kind of glow, any kind of light coming from the object?
No, nothing.
Any
No
noise?
lights, nothing.
Did you
And-
see it move, or did it just
Yeah.
hover over the base?
Yeah, that's when my hair is standing up, because I was so surprised about it. You know, I'm sitting there in front of the window and look at it, and I turn around to see if I get my wife's attention, and she looked at me with big eyes, and she was scared. You know, it's not Dennis. So, and then I turn back my head and look out of the window. It's still there. It's still there. And I hope then that my wife is going to come up and see it herself, but she did not. And I'm standing there, and or sitting there, and then the thing happened. Then you see it like this, and then it's turning up like this. And
So it
when
went
that
from-
happened,
so it was originally looking like a cigar shape, which
Yeah.
is essentially
Bigger than
a
wrong.
disc looking from the side.
exactly.
But as it turned, you became aware of its particular shape. What shape
Yes.
did you see as it turned?
Round. It's a round object. And
And
it was
then what happened?
and then I saw it just for perhaps 3-4 seconds. And then it was like somebody is throwing a frisbee at you. It's flying away over my house.
Was it
And I
fast
was so
moving?
surprised and angry at the same time, because I did not really understand what I'm seeing. So I run over the bed over my wife. She was already scared, you know, and now I'm running over her to the other side of the house, and I'm standing there on the balcony and look, where is it? And where is it? I was so frustrated and angry, and then after a minute, she's coming, and then the kids also. Daddy, what's wrong?
And when it moved, how fast did it move?
I mean, nothing I've seen before. Is
So faster than any known terrestrial craft.
I have never ever seen anything move like that.
And do you think it was moving intelligently? Could it have been a balloon or something?
Anyway, so basically it moved like as fast as what Hererra
Michael
saw.
Harerra's thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Or any
And
other UFO.
And it was just even bigger because Hererra was 300 feet, but what he's describing is give me a
Also,
moment.
it's a different thing because he saw a round shape. Michael Harerra one is more like a pyramid shape or something which is triangular. It's a different shape.
Yeah, so his size was
600 meters, he said.
yeah, so that comes around to almost 2,000 feet.
Okay. This guy is not a trained professional, so there is a possibility that he over exaggerated it.
Perhaps, but I advise people to watch the entire clip.
No, I'm
And
not saying that, but I'm saying there is a difference. Like when Michael Herrera says something, even in distress, he's trained to know these things and to
true, true,
train
true,
to know the threat.
true.
But me, if I see something, to be honest, I am very much in control. But if I see a UFO, I will definitely over exaggerate it because
Now, I agree with it, but let's say he doubles the size, right? That I mean that would be a huge exaggeration if he doubles it, but then it would still be 500 feet,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
If he
yeah.
doubled it,
Okay,
which is a huge exaggeration.
which is huge exaggeration. Yep.
Yeah. So that then it would still be much bigger than what Herrera
Also, they
said.
are two different UFOs, and then as we know, like in the UFO community, that there are multiple types of UFOs in different location has been seen, which makes the theory that there are different alien races working on Earth with different people.
So this is the Baltic Sea anomaly. There's a documentary about it. It really looks like this,
Yeah,
and
the sky what's a Star Wars thing, right?
yeah,
Millennium
uh-huh.
Falcon, Millennium Falcon.
Yeah,
Looks like
that's what they
Millennium
call it.
Falcon. Yeah.
Okay, so now we established that people see crazy stuff, and some are trained observers. But I totally understand that people think whatever. Right. So let's go into the physics, right? Because there are actually people studying these things,
Mhm.
so I want to make the case a little bit stronger for the physics of the UAPs and what it
Sure.
all means. And
Yeah.
like you say, we have to play these clips at the start of our show, when Restream still works.
Yeah.
So let's do this quickly. This is Kevin Knuth. He's a renowned physicist, really cool guy. Here he just explains the 5 observables that they have. Let's
From
go
the
through them.
ATIP program, we have the 5 observables, 5 plus 1 really. Positive lift, sudden and instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic velocity without signatures, transmedium travel, low observability or cloaking, and biological effects. And I'm going to start out by talking about pretty.
Okay, so the 5 observables. That's what UAPs. That is what characterizes UAPs. So these 5 observables that you just heard. So he's gonna talk about hypervelocity first. So let's take a look at what he discovered.
I found it fascinating that these things were, these Tic Tac shaped objects were observed to drop from about 28,000 feet to sea level in 0.78 seconds. That is crazy and really anomalous. How anomalous? Do the math, do the calculations. This is actually, I've criticized other physicists who've said, well, the analysis was rather simple. And my response to this was like, yes, you should have done it. Your students could have done it. And in fact, there was a class in Georgia, a high school class in Georgia, high school physics class that used this paper as an example on how you can make estimates of kinematics. So if you look at this, you can estimate the minimum acceleration, which comes about from the object would have accelerated halfway and then decelerated the other half of the way. That gives you a lower bound for the acceleration, which comes out to be around 5,000 Gs. 5,000 times the acceleration of gravity. No people aren't going to survive this. Most equipment won't survive this. An F-35's wings will rip off at about 13 Gs. So 5,000 Gs is really anomalous. And we estimated the power, and of course, to do this, you need to know the mass. We don't know the mass. These things were estimated to be about the size of an F-18, and an F-18 is around 10,000 kilograms of mass. We decided, let's take a much lower bound, let's take 1/10 of that. So we just assuming that this was maybe 1/10 of the mass of an F-18, you come out to a power that you can't read under there easily of 1,100 gigawatts of power. This is more than 10 times the total nuclear power output of the United States. Let that sink in for a minute. 1,000 gigawatts. If you remember the movie Back to the Future, when he's got to power up his car, 1.2 gigawatts? I mean, that was 1.2 and he's all freaking out. This is 1,000. This is one craft the size of an F-18. How does this happen? We don't know. This is where the anomaly is. This has been known for a long time. Hermann Oberth was the German father of modern rocketry. He was a mentor of Wernher von Braun. There's Hermann in the front center, the very grumpy gentleman there. Why is he so grumpy? He's grumpy because in 1954, he gave a lecture on flying saucers where he pointed out that they have been measured to travel at speeds of 19 kilometers a second, which is about 42,000 miles an hour. And he points out that he actually says, if there would only be 3 or 4 measurements, I would not rely upon them and would wait for few further measurements. But there's existing more than 50 such measurements, radar measurements, in 1954. That's like 70 years ago. This was known 70 years ago that these things are flying at spacecraft speeds. Why do people always assume they're spacecraft? It's simple, because they fly as fast as spacecraft do. This doesn't take a PhD to figure this out. Yeah, PhD.
So that is the speed, right? And the speed we just saw with Hererra and this guy from the Baltic Sea. They're basically describing a similar speed, only a greater mass.
Yeah.
So this what is F-18 sized Tic Tac produced what would have needed to produce sort of the nuclear output of America times what
10 times of American nuclear.
10 times, right? Yeah.
10 times.
So imagine what those things that Hererra and this other guy saw.
But they are thinking from a narrow band. They are thinking they are using nuclear technology. Maybe they are using some different technology, because like human mind is very restrictive. We only think what's happening, what we can imagine. They cannot go beyond their imagination. And it is not like, I'm not criticizing it that they can improve it. It's just how we are. If we can't imagine it, we can't imagine it unless we have unless we have a point of reference. So right now they are just thinking that nuclear technology is the highest technology we have, like the top tier technology. So probably aliens are using the same technology, but I think they could be using totally different mythology, like not mythology but like methodology of science.
No, but he just uses as a reference for us to
as a reference. This is what I'm saying. Yeah,
he describes this as an anomaly, right? He's not saying that he knows what is, he's just saying that's the amount of energy compared to what, to us, right?
Yeah.
So
also, if for example interdimensional things, for example, then they are not bound by the laws of our universe, because they are coming from a different universe. So probably they are using totally something normal for them, but which is very crazy for us.
Yeah, well, that's a nice bridge, because that's the next step. With those kind of speeds, what can you do?
Going spacecraft speeds, this is really remarkable. So here's on the left is a plot of a ship speed under constant acceleration. If you accelerate at 1,000 Gs, you can get to 90% the speed of light in 17 hours. You can get up to 90% the speed of light in less than a day if you can maintain that acceleration in space. That's at 1,000 Gs. The Tic Tac case, we estimated it to be about 5,000 Gs. The DAL Airlines case was 10,000 Gs. At 10,000 Gs, you can get up to 90% the speed of light, much, much faster. How far can you go this way? Well, once you're traveling close to the speed of light, relativity kicks in, and so for the traveler, you can traverse great distances in short periods of time. For us, homebodies who stay at home, it'll take years and years and years for them to get somewhere, but not for the traveler. So the plot on the right shows you how far you could go and how fast. So at 2,000 Gs, you can get to Proxima Centauri in about 3 days, the nearest star. You could, at 10,000 Gs, you can get to all of those stars within 50 light years in less than a day. It's a day trip from a star 50 light years away to Earth, for you. For the rest of us, it's 50 years. It's possible. And we know this from physics, because we know our physics. Yet the people who know their physics don't believe this is possible. There's a strange thing going on here in the minds of some people. Not only do these objects have the flight characteristics necessary for interstellar travel, they would make excellent interstellar craft. This isn't the only aspect that's interesting. Their luminosity is always...
Yeah, so you could easily travel to Alpha Centauri with these kind of ships, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it is we don't know if they're from Alpha Centauri or from a different solar system, or
I think Alpha
different planet.
Centauri. I think about Alpha Centauri is like this is like why they pick Alpha Centauri, because it's like the closest star system to us. I don't believe that we will have another civilization in Alpha Centauri. They could be coming from something further away. Maybe 5,000 G or 10,000 G, what they're explaining. Maybe it's they are slowing it down, but they can go really fast, way faster than that. We don't know what's going on because we have not analyzed. We are just estimating with this limited amount of data we have. So Alpha Centauri, I don't think so. Also, Alpha Centauri is so close. If there was a civilization doing stuff over there, we would have seen it by now with our telescope, because it's not that far away. It's just 4 light years away. So I don't know if something is going on. We did find some evidence of habitable zone in there.
Yeah.
There's like a planet, Alpha Centauri B,
Yeah.
Proxima Centauri B. That's a planet where they have a breathable atmosphere, but that's all we have right now. We don't have any evidence of space wearing civilization, or even a civilization which is capable of transmitting radio waves, because if they were transmitting radio wave, we would have received it by now easily.
Yeah, and radio waves is probably not the way to go anyway.
Yeah,
But,
but what I'm saying, there is no evidence other than there is a molecule of oxygen in that planet.
So let's talk about luminosity. What can we learn from luminosity?
To look at the original photograph and measure the exposure level. And if you do this, you find that the luminosities are on the order of 2,000 to 30,000 megawatts of light coming off of this craft. Who the heck needs 1,000 megawatt lights? And what would you use them for? Why would you do this? It doesn't make any sense. I have no idea what the purpose of such a light would be. If you perhaps couldn't help it, if you had a propulsion system that somehow gave off light like this as a byproduct, that would give you a clue as to how their propulsion systems work, which is interesting. That's what I'm interested in. But then you have to worry, what kind of people have propulsion systems that waste thousands of megawatts and they don't really care about it? That tells you something about the amounts of energy that they're willing and able to play with. So maybe this is important information. Now,
So anyway, so that's the luminosity, and then he also goes on to describe bigger ships, transmedium travel. So a lot of these videos you see a UAP go into the water and out of the water, or other Especially water, because they seem to have affinity for water, but without losing any speed, and often without a splash. And he also gives examples of that. So I'll link it down below in the video, on the YouTube video, and then I recommend you watch the entire thing. He also talks about skepticism amongst other physicists, and why they're not researching it. He has also been in some documentaries, and his proposal is that these spaceships, because that's as he describes them, that's what they are, that they are probably hiding in our oceans when they are here, because a lot of different factors. But he makes the case that oceans are the logical place to hide, because it's difficult to spot, especially for us. But also because of the temperature in oceans, it's you have less temperature degrees than on the surface levels of different planets. And he also names a couple of other reasons. I forgot which other reasons. I think it also has to do with gravity and other kind of things.
Yeah.
But so he sort of says that like the oceans are the most logical place for these ships to hang around when they're visiting. Which makes sense, right? Because they're often spotted around water, and there's a lot of water
Yeah,
space.
also it's not I don't even know, because we don't know what their physiology is, so it doesn't mean that they were, because of the temperature they're hiding it. Maybe they're hiding it because nobody goes there.
Yeah. That's that's a really good point, right? So that's
Because
the
on
excellent place
land,
to hide.
every land part on this earth is being monitored by everything, but oceans, nobody knows what's going on. We don't know about our oceans at all.
So but we have more. So this was Kevin Knuth, and I really like him. He's a cool guy. But we now also have Jake Barber with Skywatch. And if you are not aware of Skywatch, give them a follow on Twitter. And we'll also link all that kind of stuff down below. And they just released their second show or video, whatever you want to call it, where they sort of go into the research that they do. The first show that they did, or the first video that they released, was about sort of the background and what they're about, and what their targets are and all that kind of stuff. But the second video is actually where they show the research and also their findings. And I recommend you watch the entire thing. I'm not going to play the entire thing, but I am going to play you something really juicy. And that's this clip right here.
Characteristics. We've broken the UAPs down into 9 classes or types. Some of these classes may be the same UAP under different flight configurations, but at this point, given the behavior, we're confident they don't align with conventional or terrestrial explanations.
Each UAP class has different characteristics. Some shimmer, some tumble, some spin. Some look like they're alive and they just fly like a living object in the sky.
UAPs are extremely hard to image. What is seen with the naked eye is generally not what is seen under camera.
The class 1 often spins, tumbles through the sky. Craft looks like a black body. It appears to flash, pulse multiple times per second. There appears to be some kind of cloud or vapor around it. We've seen class 1s in formations up to 22, 23, flying in different flight formations, different flock formations. The class 2 is the classic Tic Tac. We've seen it in groups of 2 to 3, often flying very erratically. We've seen these a couple years in a row, and usually we see them in groups. The class 3, the blob, a pulsing, vibrating cloud. There's something, maybe perhaps a cylinder kind of in the middle that has a different light, like a flame, and then it vibrates and pulses as it moves through space. The class 4 is your orb. We've only seen it in infrared. The class 4 seems to only come during certain activities in conjunction with perhaps the class 1. We don't have enough data yet to confirm. The class 5 we call the manta ray. It seems to tumble and rotate as it moves through the sky. Class 6 is bright star. That one vibrates very, very fast. It literally looks like a crystal in the sky. The class 7 is a jellyfish. It's probably about 2 meters across. The head is purple and black in color, and then it has tentacles. The class 8 we call the hornet. It looks very similar to the class 7, the jellyfish, except for it's bigger, and it's almost like a jellyfish carrying something.
And then the Class 9 is the egg. The Class 9 isn't something we have a lot of data on. It's very limited. We have it as Skywatcher during our California event. It's an emerging class, and we have strong evidence that it probably exists, but we don't have data to.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna play the whole thing because you know, you have to watch it yourself. But they really go into the research that they're doing.
It's a great video, by the way, explaining all types of UFOs they have witnessed. It's not. It doesn't mean that's all there is. It's just what they have found. And I have
Yeah.
seen some of those things, like the orb ones in the sky. They look like orb, which is very common, by the way. If people go out in the clear sky outside the city, they might see stuff like that. At least in North America, I don't know about Europe, but in North America, people see a lot of the things in the sky.
Yeah, and I think also what is interesting when you watch the video is that they are very translucent.
Yeah.
I think they're, you know, because we have been also talking a lot about plasma research and, you know, new science of heaven and all that kind of stuff. And maybe, you know, the stuff that Herrera describes and Jake Barber and others, you know, maybe some of that is also like very human made, you know, like human replicas of this technology.
Some of them, yeah.
And that these plasma UAPs that you see here in this video, especially, that they are more like authentic NHI life forms or whatever. They seem kind of unusual. But yeah, you got them in many shapes and guises, and maybe when they fly around, they have a shimmering, translucent look. But one of the other cool things about this video is to summon these UAPs. Oh yeah, there's a couple of things. You know, first of all, they can summon them with human assets or psionics. And, you know, we talked about Herrera and the human trafficking. And so one of the things that Jake Barber is suggesting is that they are looking for psionics. And psionics are people with telepathy, gifts, or telekinesis, you know, all these sort of woo-woo stuff. And usually they are children from till 5 or 6 years old, women, and left-handed gay men. You know, those are sort of the three categories for psionics assets. And that they, you know, try to get these people on board. And there's also ways with biological enhancement, I think, that you can sort of, you know, we already saw some studies that you can, with magnets, you can take out, like, for example, the left hemisphere so that the right hemisphere dominates, and especially the left frontal cortex. If you sort of tune it down with a magnet, then these sort of latent psionic abilities are activated or still there. Sort of, you can sort of bring them to the fore. So there are ways sort of to stimulate it in human beings. But anyway, these psionic assets, they can summon these or call or invite, as some people say, these UAPs. So they have these human assets. You also see them in the video. That they also used when they were still dark ops for the, you know, governments and other outfits. But they also have a mechanical, the dog whistle, as they call it. And with the dog whistle, the mechanical means to summon or invite these UAPs, they have like a 100% hit rate. Like each time they use it, they get a sighting. So that's why they have so much data by now. And they think by the end of this year, they will prove or disprove the veracity of all these claims, like about UAPs and about psionic powers or abilities. So they think they can generate enough data publicly and to invite all kinds of scientists to take a look at the data, because they will make it public and open source to either prove or disprove it. But I haven't said the coolest thing, because one of the other things that also shows in this video that you should watch is that they not only have telepathic powers, in the sense that they can summon these or invite these UAPs, and perhaps also telekinetic powers in the sense that they can steer and control them up to a degree, but they also have precognition powers, which they also talk about in these videos, that they there were just actually cases or instances where where some of these psionics were able to forecast and predict in exact the time and the type of the UAP that would be summoned the next day, and then it appeared as exactly as they sort of predicted. So there's also precognition. So anyway, so this sort of research that Skywatch is doing, and they got a huge financial backing, is super cool and groundbreaking. And you should definitely follow these guys because, wow, this is really awesome. Yeah, then we also have this witness, which I think it was Jeremy Corbell. It was in their show. This is a Navy veteran, Alex Wiggins, and he described what happened after
Paul must be interested in this one because he liked US Navy.
Yeah. So yeah, this the US Jackson Tic Tac UFO video. So we have a video, but then he describes what happens after the video ends. So let's play from this one.
Video stops. I'll share this. This is kind of like, something that probably everybody wants to know. I'll tell you what happens when the video stops. The video stops and the CSM zooms out, and as the CSM zooms out, we notice that there's a total of 4. Now, on radar, I already noticed that once I came back in, I noticed the one that I was looking for visually, and I noticed other contacts in that same location. But when we first zoomed in on the contact in the video that you see, we only saw the one, and then we see the second one. It was only when we zoom out, we realize, holy crap, there's 2 more out here, a total of 4. And so we're just watching. What's the point of looking away? We're witnessing something that most people don't get a chance to witness in their lives. So we're just watching on Sapphire, and we're tracking it, and Sapphire's, tracking one of them, and it's tracking and tracking and tracking. And as time goes by, we're like, let's just watch. I would say maybe 20, 30 seconds pass after the video stops. And all of a sudden, you just see all 4 of them take off to the northeast all at the same time. Just out of nowhere. And if I had to talk speed, it would say like maybe 2 steps behind instantaneous. It wasn't like if you blink, it's gone. We had time to watch them go off into the distance, but really instantly. No noise, no sonic boom, no, effects in the water that, cause rippling in the water. Nothing. Nobody was affected. Nothing was affected. We didn't get a gust of wind to hit us. And that's anything else, I'm not a scientist, but anything else that could have been disturbed with that level of speed was not disturbed.
And these 4 points leave as if they're one object. Is that right?
Yes. So what in the Navy, we have these things called tactical signals. So we'll do tactical signals as an operations specialist with the bridge, and with a strike group or an ESG, which is a expeditionary strike group. We'll get together and we'll conduct exercises, and over different radio circuits, we will conduct different formations, and it's called by the formation commander, and they'll issue a way that everyone's supposed to turn, for example. And once they conduct and execute, they execute, and they all turn at the same time. So it's pretty cool to see ships do this. It was very reminiscent to see all 4 of those objects as if they were doing the same thing. They all executed at the same time, leaving. It's not like 3 of them left and then one was kind of like a little behind them. No, they were all in sync at the same time. And that's why I said earlier that it was my thoughts were either they synced together like we do in the Navy, and we all take off at turn at the same time, or, get in formation at the same time and execute the order at the same time, or one entity is controlling all 4 of those objects at the same time, and it's just synced together, all 4 objects. something like that is what went through my mind.
Where does it go from here for you? I mean, are you willing to testify if you were called, or fill out a form to Arrow, or take it further if you're asked?
That's a good question, George. I'm not sure. I definitely, I see myself as someone that's just stepping up to share his experience. I don't see it as anything other than that. Where this goes from here, I don't know. I wouldn't mind, just adding my voice to those that have come before me, like yourself and Jeremy. I don't mind. But that's how I see myself. Just someone giving data as eyewitness testimony. Again, I love the Navy, been in the Navy for 23 years. Don't plan on leaving it anytime soon. And just wanted to show what we have to display and looking at Sapphire. You'll see, anybody can see if you get a chance to be on a Navy ship and look at Sapphire. Everything we see that is propelled into the air leaves a signature in its.
So that's, again, another example of what we're talking about, right? And this is,
by the way, I have not seen this one, so this one was very surprising for me, that we have another video like that, which is recorded from military equipment, and then this guy is explaining it. This was new to me, and then I'm very surprised and happy about this one, that there is not just like those leaked one which was leaked in 2017, but there are new videos coming in from military.
And new people are speaking out, right? I think that's really good that people are speaking out more and more, and that it's becoming more and more, that people
which give
are
us
more
the
and more
sense
open
that
to
there
it.
are more than few witnesses. There are like a lot of people have seen stuff like that in Navy, at least in Navy.
So, and this one is pretty old. It's also from Jeremy Corbell. It's I think from maybe two years. I think 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and he's talking to. I have to look it up. I think I got it here. He's talking to someone from the DIA, and his name is. Let's see, I got it here.
James Lacatski.
James Lacatski. He was the Defense Intelligence Agency Program Manager, Contracting Officer Representative, or CORE, Security Coordinator and Counterintelligence Coordinator for the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program, or OSAP, which at least had 22 million.
Is you're officially allowed to tell us that the United States government has in its possession a craft of unknown origin, and you were able to access the inside. Is that correct?
The wording that you read is correct. You're going beyond the wording.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you, did that meeting happen? And is it true? And it's true.
Yes.
Okay, you're telling us, you told us, because you were allowed to tell us, that our government has a UFO in its possession and has been able to access the inside of it, right?
Yes.
Well, that's what I
know. I was allowed to tell you. Let me show the back of the book. This is.
I know, but hold up, George. We translate, George.
All right, let's try another tack. How do we know it's a craft and not a doorstop? We accessed it. It has no engine. It has no wings. No fuel. It doesn't. We don't know that it travels. Do we know it's a craft, or it's just a rock?
George, you're going into the further discussion that occurred that day.
All right.
We can't go there. But let me tell you, we're going to try to cover that in the future. But it's delicate.
Why is it delicate?
Described in here look primitive.
Why is it delicate? Why is this topic that the United States government has a UFO in its possession and we've been reverse engineering it? You've done admit it. Why is it delicate?
The details. I'm old school. I won't use the term adversary, competitor as the way we describe. We are surrounded, maybe not surrounded, but hopefully not so, by our enemies. And our enemies, you can be sure they're listening to this show right now. You can be sure that they were monitoring OSAP. You can be sure that perhaps they had employees, hopefully not in GIA, but in the contractor part, that were giving out information. I know that. So the thing is we can't say anything more than what we've been approved to say.
Okay. Anyway, so he's really trying to evade those questions, even though he also answered a couple. But they have been sort of inside these craft, and they have been reverse engineering these craft, and that's from 2 years ago. And of course, OSAP was actually from, I think, 10 years ago, and they had like a $22 million budget, at least officially. And most of these, also the advanced aerial, what was it? ATIP, advanced aerial tactics. What? No, I forgot the abbreviation. But they also had a couple of million to spend, and those kind of programs are only sort of the official or semi-official programs, right? So
yeah, I just want to say
advanced aerial threat identification project. That's it.
Okay. No, I just want to say about this weaponized thing. First of all, this guy is like teasing, but feels like he's like, if you can tease that, then why can't you answer the next question? Like how?
Yeah.
This
yeah.
feels.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And
that's
this
a good
is
point.
yeah, like you have already said everything, so why can't you say the next thing? Also, like he's just assuming that we are surrounded by enemies and they don't know what's going on inside. Like this is also like a big assumption, that how do you know that they don't have the same things?
Yeah, well, and I think these are really good points that you raised, right? First of all, right, if they are telling us, our enemies know, right? They know at least as much as we do, but probably way more. So, they're leading us by our nose, right? They're dropping breadcrumbs for us to find and to, connect the dots, So, and one of the things with connecting dots is if you drop breadcrumbs and you let people connect dots, then they turn it into their own story, and as they turn it into their own story, they're more committed to their story. And plus, everything that you leave out of the story can be super important. But it's sort of like a very smart way to sort of drip feed, but also manage the story and the elements that you want to get out without sharing everything. And
also, it's a good way to spread misinformation.
Also, yeah, definitely, and also, yeah, absolutely, and also to acclimatize. Yeah, I always use that word, but it's a horrible word. But to get people used to something, by drip feeding it. But anyway, this one is from sort of ties into what we just saw. This is from Ross Coulthard.
I don't know if it's Elon, but there are certainly private aerospace companies, and I know their names. This is the frustrating thing. I know their names. I know the principals involved, the executives who direct it. I even know some of the government officials who are involved in the coordination. And so does the Congress. They've been given these names by witnesses. There is a program working with retrieved non-human technology right now in the United States. And one of the reasons they're so secretive about it is because the Russians and the Chinese have exactly the same program. And as David Grush told me in his interview nearly 2 years ago, David referred to the fact that there is a Cold War going on. There is a fight between adversary nations, Russia, China, and the United States. And I suspect, nobody's saying this publicly yet, but I'll say it, Israel. I suspect that these countries are all involved in a battle to secure the knowledge behind retrieved non-human technology. And the great tragedy is, if they were more open and shared it with the world, and if we went through the kind of spiritual understanding of what the phenomenon is, I think we would make progress a hell of a lot quicker than we have done to date. Because I'm told that, yes, whilst we've learned how to engage human consciousness with this technology, the answer is staring us in the face. It's in our minds. What the problem?
Yeah, so it's in our minds, and that's sort of a bottleneck. It appears, that is also with the psionics, right? In order to summon these UAPs, or at least these classes of UAPs, because, like you said, maybe there are more. There are probably more. You have to have like a pure heart. You have to feel love inside of yourself. That's how sort of Jake and those other witnesses, psionic people, are describing it. That you have to have like a purity inside of yourself in order to invite them, which might be a reason why these sort of dark projects or black ops have trouble reverse engineering these crafts, right? Because first of all, it's consciousness, and our knowledge and science of consciousness is still pretty limited. And secondly, you might have to be a good person to in order to summon these things.
Yeah.
I want to play one more, and then I think we should wrap it up, because I see Douglas is also in the chat, and I totally forgot, but his show is after this show, so
Oh yeah,
we have to start wrapping it up.
we are like
So-
1.5 hour in, so I think we are eating his time out. So let's just
Yeah,
play
yeah,
it
yeah,
and-
yeah. Luckily, the clips are still showing fine. I'm keeping
Yeah,
an eye
actually,
on
it
that.
is surprisingly.
So this will be our final clip. I'll save all the pyramid stuff for another time, because it would take us too far afield. I also got a lot of stuff from Ashton Forbes. I do want to mention one more thing before I play the clip, and that is, I had stuff about warp drives that they have this. I got all kinds of stuff, but warp drive stuff is maybe something we can touch upon. But I do want to mention this one. So the Max Planck Institute, they have created a space-time crystal that is sustained at room temperature. So that is also what we just saw with the plane, right? Those scientists in the plane were talking about room temperature. What's it called? Forgot again. Semiconducting. Yeah, so semiconducting at room temperature. So that's basically the same thing as these time crystals. And the idea is that this energy in these time crystals is there, right? It's not going away. And this is rest mode, is actually that it's generating energy. So that's very unusual. And I think, wait. Yeah, I'll show this one. So this is a recent discovery, and this is from Ashton Forbes. It's about the warp drive. So here's what people out there not plugged into physics need to understand. There's a real version of teleportation consistent with the laws of physics. It is the Miguel Albuquerque warp drive metric from 1994. Warp drive versus wormhole is just a matter of skill. Eventually, you bend space-time so much you produce a singularity. Alcubierre said we needed negative energy, and all academia assumed it must be some exotic substance that doesn't exist. They were wrong. The video shows negative energy is a conceptual misunderstanding. We can go below equilibrium, which is technically negative. Below equilibrium implies energy below this ground state, aka below absolute zero. This already has a name. It's called 0-point energy. That's why the SAP is called. It's real negative energy going below equilibrium, tapping into 0-point energy. It's a real warp drive wormhole. There's no way someone made the MH370 drone video and accidentally solved physics. It's impossible to believe because it's so advanced. It seems like magic to us. It's not. It's science. So this is the Albuquerque warp drive. Sorry. I'm struck. And I want to play one more video before the other video is very short. It's this one. This is the person who actually made that warp drive.
Could you work this in reverse and use the vapor formation and the gravitational lensing effects to predict the magnitude of the drive, the magnitude of space-time contraction or expansion?
I'm not sure about the actual magnitude. I think it's a yes or no answer. Yes, it's producing a vapor cone, or no, it's not. So here is a diagram on the left showing the spatial compression. The way I described it in the book was, imagine you've compressed 10 cubic feet of space down to 1 cubic foot of compared to normal space, relative to normal space. Let's use the right terms here. And then as it's traveling along at, say, 100 kilometers an hour, the air that it's passing through was in a 1 foot cube, and now it suddenly finds itself in a pocket of space 10 cubic feet in size. It's going to rapidly expand, and if there's enough moisture in the air, it's going to condense and create a visible vapor cloud that would show up as cold on an IR camera. On the right is your typical vapor cone of a jet that's traveling approximately the speed of Mach. These vapor cones will form between 0.8 and 1.2 Mach. But notice how it's on the back. It's not in front of it. It's basically almost behind it.
So that one was very interesting. And I want to, wait, these are very short, so I'll just run through them very quickly. This is actually Hal Puthoff when he was younger.
Conversion of vacuum energy into another form, in this case, light, heat, radio waves. So we know of a laboratory that has some experiments going in which they were creating turbulent bubbles in fluids and then measuring the energy in the water by the heat, and they were getting over unity efficiency. And so we have now arranged to have those devices shipped to our laboratory, and we're going to do a very detailed study. But in this case, we're talking about kilowatts of excess energy.
Not 1 watt.
Right, kilowatts. In other words, this is a conversion of vacuum energy into another form.
Yeah,
in this case, light.
So that's sort of extra energy that you generate out of nothing. That's what he's talking about. And then this one is when he's older.
Come forth, and people say, "Well, there I was close to a craft, and suddenly all the sounds of nature, the birds, the wind, I didn't hear anything." Well, if time has been slowed down in that area and has gone into infrasonics so that you wouldn't hear it, that's one of the elements that you would expect to experience. And so then you also have obviously both kinds of things where you would interpret it as missing time, because suddenly if time got slowed down, so maybe you might be, let's say, in the craft's slowed down vicinity for 5 minutes or whatever. But meanwhile, outside, several hours have gone by. Then when you emerge, you say, "Oh my gosh, I got missing time." It might not be that you actually missed any subjective time. It's just one of the consequences. And I discussed the details of that.
So these are pretty wild clips from Hal Puthoff. And Hal Puthoff is, of course, at the center of all this with Stanford Research Institute. And, not only Project Stargate that he did with Russell Targ, but he's sort of at the epicenter of almost all of the UAP stuff. I'm not sure if he's a good guy. I am sort of on the same page with Ashton Forbes, who calls him a spook. Right? Because if you're so at the center of all this stuff, and with so much of this stuff being hidden from the public and being, covered up, then he must also be aware of how that works, and he might very likely be involved in the
But
cover-up, right? I mean,
he
that
is
is very
probably,
likely.
but the problem is he have no authority. He have to do what he have to do in order to continue his research, because he does
Yeah,
not hold
probably.
any power. He was funded by CIA, which is a fact. Look into remote viewing and everything. Also, he was trying to explore the corners of this universe which was forbidden in physics, so no institution would have supported him, so he needed that government support to go and do research on those things. So he was probably involved in hiding, but I don't think he wanted to do it, but he wanted to do something bigger than what people can perceive at that time. So in order to do that, he have to compromise some stuff.
Yeah, that could be the case. You could make a case that he is more of a victim, or at least that in order to do his studies or science or research, that he had to follow the rules.
Yeah.
That could be the case. I think this is all sort of crazy. We have this famous clip. We also played it last time. I want to play it again. It's from
one of the things we argued in our meeting with the White House on AI policy was, look, there are going to be issues that come from AI, but they should be regulated. The regulation should happen at the application level, not at the technology level.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is basically because, like, to regulate math, right, at the level of the algorithms, like to regulate.
And he argued with me when I said that.
Well, yes. So Ben basically said, look, it doesn't make sense because to regulate AI at the technology level, you're regulating math, and of course we're not going to do that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And you'll recall that what they said was, no, actually,
we can classify math.
We can classify math, and literally, this is verbatim. We classified whole entire areas of physics in the nuclear era, and made them state secrets, like of the like theoretical
physics,
science of physics. We classified them and made them state secrets, and that research vanished. And we are absolutely capable of doing that again for AI. We will classify any area of math that we think is leading in a bad direction. And
wow, I love that clip. It's totally insane. Like, I mean, this is straight from the X-Files, or we'll just classify a complete area of physics or math. Who cares? Wow. Anyway, let's end with this one, which ties into this final clip. And thank you, Douglas, for waiting.
Yeah, let's just do it because I need to go anyway.
Trump and his family. When Nikola Tesla died in 1943, the US government moved very swiftly to seize all of his papers and personal effects. These included notebooks and unpublished materials, correspondence, and according to various reports, dealt with advanced energy systems, directed energy, and even concepts related to space and time manipulation. But who was the scientist that was brought in to review Tesla's confiscated work for the US government? Dr. John G. Trump, an electrical engineer, a physicist, an MIT professor, and also the uncle of Donald J. Trump. Now, the mainstream narrative claims that John G. Trump found nothing of practical value in Tesla's seized materials, but this dismissal is not one that's given by the man himself. I came across some rare archive video footage of Dr. John G. Trump discussing his involvement in the evaluating of Tesla's work. Now, he mentions correspondence between Tesla and members of both the British and Russian royal families in regards to acquiring a superweapon of incredible capabilities.
Would just be evidence of a secret weapon, which I was reminded by the agents, the two agents who were present during the entire time, was a matter of concern to the United States. In the course of this, I did come across a number of letters directed at the upper echelon of the British Empire, that is, I think, to the King and Queen, or perhaps just to the King of England, and also to the Tsar of Russia, explaining that he was the inventor of a secret weapon which had rather remarkable properties, and that he would be interested in entering into a negotiation which would lead to a disclosure of what they were. Of course, I spent a good deal of time looking through these papers, trying to find out what the nature of this secret weapon was. I think I had, although I don't remember it so very accurately, an idea of what its properties were. It had the capability of acting at a great distance, of being destructive to flying objects and things of that kind at a place which was remote from the source.
It seems to me that John Trump knew more than mainstream debunkers give credit for, especially considering Dr. Trump's deep involvement in classified radar, particle beam, and high voltage technologies for the US military during and also after World War II. He was perfectly positioned to be the guy that they would call to assess all of Tesla's work. So is it possible that some of Tesla's more speculative research, particularly into wireless energy power transmission, field resonance, scalar wave technologies, was quietly absorbed into black research programs? Well, from the fleeting glimpses of advanced research and development from back in the Cold War era and into the 1970s that we've gained access from Freedom of Information Act requests, FOIA requests, declassified documents, etc., we see a clear interest in the weaponization of scalar waves and research avenues that all echo the interests of Nikola Tesla himself. More than a coincidence, in my opinion. And if so, could Donald Trump, now as president, be not just aware of these legacies in his own family, but actively shaping policy that greenlights their reemergence? I mean, the rhetoric emerging from the Trump administration's Science and Technology Office, language that directly parallels Tesla's lifelong vision of limitless energy and distance annihilation and the transformation of space and time, it feels like a revival of his dreams for the future. And it was Tesla himself who said that the present is theirs, the future, for what I really worked for, is mine.
I think that's a nice place to wrap it up. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I had more clips, I had more stuff, but it's too much, and Sid also has to go.
Yeah. Also, there is too many things to talk about this Tesla thing, but maybe we'll do it next time, because it's not just one thing we can say, but it's very good point to end, and I think next one will be a good podcast after that.
Absolutely. And I had a good time. I think we covered a lot of ground. Definitely watch the Michael Harerra interview, the Kevin Knuth presentation, this one by Jay Anderson, who's really good, by the way. And yeah, I'll also link all the X Twitter links underneath the video and any other research. Oh yeah, and follow Jake Barber, Skywatch. So it's at Skywatch on Twitter or X, whatever.
Skywatcher. No, it's I think Skywatcher HQ, something like that.
HQ.
But,
okay, yeah. Wait, I'll check. You might be right, huh?
Skywatcher HQ. I just checked.
Okay,
Yeah.
Skywatcher HQ, and yeah, check the video. It's a really cool video. They go into a lot of stuff, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.